Is Errol Spence Jr. ducking Manny Pacquiao after withdrawing from their fight due to an eye injury? In this video, we're going to answer how legit or downright absurd that question is. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about the unique medical side of the world of sports. It was announced yesterday that Spence was found to have a torn retina and had to withdraw from the fight to undergo surgery to fix it. Spence himself putting out a statement on Instagram saying that the doctors found a small tear in his eye, he needs to get surgery ASAP, and there's basically no way he can fight with his eye in this condition. But this, of course, has not stopped people from questioning the legitimacy of these claims and trying to accuse him of ducking the Pacquiao fight. I would actually argue that the timing of this fight and his pre-fight physical might have actually saved his vision. First off, what in the world is a torn retina? Well, here I have a picture with our biodigital anatomy tool looking at the anatomy of the eye. This is in cross-section, and what we're looking at here in the back portion of the eye is a thin layer of cells called the retina. The retina contains cells that process the light that comes into our eye and then generate this electrical current that travels through your optic nerve and back into the brain to register our vision. The retina is a very thin and very fragile layer of cells that sits all the way on the back side of the eye and gets its blood supply from sort of the underneath or the underside portion of that layer. Now, the jelly or sort of the meat of the eyeball is called the vitreous body. And in a healthy eye, that vitreous body is adhered onto the retina. Well, for a variety of reasons, including both spontaneous and also from trauma to the eye or to the head, you can develop tears in the retina. These can be a direct tear of the retina. This can be from the vitreous body basically pulling the retina away, sort of like if you peel a sticker off of an envelope and there's some residue left behind. But what you end up with is a tear in that layer of cells of the retina. If we hide that vitreous body here, now you can look up underneath and see an example of what that little tear might look like. This picture here is what an eye doctor would see when they're actually looking through the eye back to the retina, where here you can see a little bit of a tear forming, and here an area where that retina started to detach and peel away. The difference between a retinal tear and a retinal detachment is that fluid in sort of the body, the meat of the eye, can leak behind that tear, accumulate behind that thin layer of cells, and cause it to delaminate or pull away from its blood supply in the back of the eye. That's a retinal detachment. So it starts off as a retinal tear, progresses to a retinal detachment, which can be vision threatening and cause you to go blind if not treated correctly. So let's take this back to Spence. First off, this can happen spontaneous. Now in a boxer, that's probably less likely, but these can just occur due to a variety of reasons from the eye, most likely with aging, but also just from the normal shape of the eye and how that can affect some of these forces. I've seen some discussion about, was this from his car accident? That car accident was like over a year ago. And so I don't think there's really much chance at all that that tear would have been there and he just would have not noticed it until recently. So I think that's definitely a myth that we can debunk. It's also important to know that a small retinal tear could be asymptomatic. Generally, when it progresses to a full detachment, you'll start to see floaters, you'll see some change in your peripheral vision, maybe some flashing lights or graying of your vision, but a small little tiny tear might be something that you don't necessarily pick up on and notice right away. So now we get to really the heart of what's going on here. Combat athletes are required to get a medical approval depending on the specific state's athletic commission for where they're competing. This fight was going to take place in Las Vegas, so the fighters are under the guidance and regulation of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. If we go to their website, they clearly outline what's basically required for a fighter to get approved to compete. And one of them, of course, is this report of a physical exam. So if we open this up, basically what this does is this is the physical, this is the medical clearance that these boxers have to undergo before they're allowed to participate in the fight. Of course, this has a lot of stuff relevant to cardiac history, a full physical exam. They're going to do some blood work here because of blood exposure during a fight. But more importantly, in this case, you must go to an ophthalmologist for a dilated eye exam for licensure. So for Spence to be cleared to fight, even if he has zero eye symptoms, every year, he has to go and get a dilated eye exam from specifically an ophthalmologist. The ophthalmologist is going to discover if there is a retinal tear because that's the point of going to the ophthalmologist. Now, where this gets even more interesting and why I think this timing and the location of the fight could have saved his vision is that every state has different physical exam forms and different regulations for what's required to participate, including the eye exam. The Association of Boxing Commissions and Combative Sports actually outlines on their website here what each state requires for their medical commission clearance. If we go down to Nevada here, the eye exam must be dilated eye exam from an ophthalmologist, must be done more than 24 hours from the fight, and is valid for 1 calendar year. Another state here, New Jersey, just to show you some of the difference, They also have to have a dilated eye exam, but it's valid for only 6 months. And apparently, if we look at Kansas, they don't even require an eye exam according to this. Now, this was last updated in 2017, and so it's hard to know 100% the validity of this, but my point is that all these different states have different specific requirements for their eye exams. What I'm saying is there's no way that Spence could have hid or somehow made up this story without bribing an ophthalmologist, which is downright absurd to suggest or believe. He could have had absolutely zero eye symptoms, gone for his required eye exam, they discover a small little tear, and they say, gosh, you can't fight with this, because if it develops into a larger tear or detachment, that really is vision threatening. So then he has no say in the matter. The ophthalmologist is not going to clear him, and no matter how bad he wants to fight, he can't get through and approved by the athletic commission. Basically, it's completely out of his control. To actually treat these, what they're trying to do is go in and seal up or close the tear before it develops into a full detachment. They can do these with some lasers, with some kind of cold-based therapy, so a variety of things that they will do to, again, just try to seal up and close that tear. So overall, Spence is extremely fortunate that this was discovered. Like, this is a perfect example of why we do these eye exams. We're trying to catch these things, because if he wasn't checked, he went and fought, he gets another eye injury, now it could be a full-blown detachment that could threaten his vision, which goes beyond just boxing. So in summary, it's absurd to suggest or think that Spence is in some way making this up or trying to duck the fight. The Nevada State Athletic Commission requires an eye exam from an ophthalmologist, and then when they do that exam, they're going to see the tear, and they're not going to clear him. They shouldn't clear him, because if it develops into a worse tear or a full-blown detachment, he could go blind from the injury. I wish him the best in his recovery, and hopefully this quiets everybody who's trying to claim that he's ducking the fight or somehow making up this injury. That's it for the video. As always, let me know any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.